Euphoria is a show many people have heard about already, most likely against their will, because you can't go on Twitter for 5 minutes without hearing something about Euphoria or a post about one of the characters. And if you don't have any of the context on the show and whatnot, you have no idea what people are talking about. And I gotta say, I finally watched the entire show, so those 2 seasons, plus 2 special movies that were released between season 1 and season 2. And I gotta say, I have a lot of thoughts on the show. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna review both season 1 and season 2 in one single video and explain why I enjoyed a lot, because there's a lot to enjoy here. I think Euphoria is one of the best shows of the entire decade of the 2020s, and I'm going to explain why, because there's a lot to dissect here. I think it's a show that is very realistic on the way it handles like mature themes, and especially how teenagers have to live in this 21st century. So I'm going to go and talk about each one of those aspects and explain why I like the show so much. So what is Euphoria actually about? I think if you ask many people who know just like the basics of the show, they'll say it's about sex and drugs, and there's a lot of that here. To be honest, that there was like far more sex and drugs that I ever imagined seeing in a movie or TV show, but there's a purpose for all that. I think the way the show handles these mature things is done in an incredible way, mostly because it really explores some really uncomfortable parts of the human experience, and especially with people who live young and party and are basically like going into a world that doesn't really explain much to you. You have to like understand how to be a good person, how to deal with stress, with mental health problems, with anxiety, depression. And I think the way the movie takes on mental health is done in an effective way, especially with the realism. That's what I've said several times. I think the show is very realistic in the way it does all these things, and each character is a reflection of this. I think like anyone who watches this will feel identified with like the several dozen characters that exist in Euphoria, because there's definitely a little bit of everything here, from the adult characters to the kids. I think like each one has something that is very relatable, and I was surprised like at how every single one of the characters is really explored in an effective way. So what I want to do is analyze like each one of the stories and each one of the characters, because there's a lot to dissect. I think it would take me like an hour long video to really explore each one of the characters and say everything that I liked about them. So we'll go with the main ones and then kind of like go through all the secondary characters. But if you want to watch a show that is really complex and how it explores human existence, like, you should watch this. So before that, I'm gonna go with the tone of the series. I think the series is really beautiful in a lot of ways, especially with the music and the cinematography. Like the way some scenes are shot is just like they're just so beautiful. And combined with the music, the score is composed by Labyrinth and Future, I believe, and I think the score is just really good too. I really enjoyed it. I think it really sets the tone of the series. It's very original. I've never seen anything like this, so yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's also a show made by A24, so you could really tell that there's like a lot of artistic independence here from Sam Levinson, the creator of the show. Like he really went full on with his creative like ingenuity, and I really enjoyed that. Also, the acting is pretty great. I think there's some scenes in Euphoria that are like basically Oscar worthy, or in this case Emmy worthy, because they're just so intense. Especially the way with Rue. We'll explore more about Rue later, but I really want to say that Zendaya's performances here are really, really convincing and really intense. Like she plays a drug addict who also has like bipolar disorder, some mental health problems. Like it really, like her character explores how like drugs can make a person just basically spiral out of control and affect like all their loved ones in some really bad ways. So that's something I really enjoyed about Zendaya's performance, like how she was so into it and so like passionate about the way she portrayed this character. And speaking about Rue, I think she really is a reflection not only about problems such as drug addiction or depression or anxiety or just mental health issues in general, but mostly about the insatisfaction someone has with reality and how they use like coping mechanisms to like make all the bad things go away. And that is explored a lot in their character. Like she really enters a period of grief after her father's death. So like the way it explores her psychology and how she gives up in some moments and she comes back to reality. She goes through periods of optimism before like diving down again into the drugs. I think it was done in a really great way. And this is also the way her dynamic works with her sister, with her mother, and especially with Jules. I think it was really great. And we'll talk more about Jules now, because she's also like basically you could argue those two are the main characters. Although I think each one of the other characters has their own part in this. So I think there are no main characters in Euphoria. Basically, everybody is like has their part in the story, and that's something I really enjoyed. So now on to Jules. I think Jules was a really great character in a lot of ways. She's a trans girl character, and they explore that a lot in the series, like how, especially in the movie that dedicated to her. I think that one explored really well, like her psychology and how she navigates the world, how she perceives herself. But I think like the representation is really well, but they don't focus on that as much as some of her other issues, which is something I really appreciated. I think in most media today, that includes like gay characters or trans characters, they make that a big focus on their personality and all that. But I think in this series and the movie, they explore that because it's really important, but they also made it like another aspect of their whole being. So they explore like a lot of her relationships, especially the story with her mother, which is later reflected on Rue. That is really interesting, and like her also like her sexuality, the way she explores like the way she encounters the way she navigates affection and love and sex with other people, like how promiscuity affected her, and then basically her relationship with Rue. I think those aspects were really great because it's something a lot of people like face in their lives, like either going down a promiscuous path or like attaching themselves. So a lot of people have fear of attachment. So I think it's really great they explore that aspect of like with Jules's character, and this complexity is reflected in some of the other characters. For example, Nate, I think his story and his sexuality and the way he discovers like who his father is just really intense. And from the very beginning, like it leaves like a lot of cliffhangers within every episode. So from season 1 to season 2, I think it did a really good job at like combining all these stories and exploring these characters and how they intersect. So yeah, speaking of Nate, I think the whole story with him and his father is really well done, especially exploring Cal's past in season 2 was really well done. It's probably the most intense out of all the stories, and I just thought it was really well done. I think this series deals with topics such as sex and such as like insatisfaction in a way that not many properties do. So I hope we get to see a lot of stories in the future that take inspiration from Euphoria and just delve into more contemporary topics of human psychology. An example of this is how the series explores some aspects that didn't exist even 10 years ago. So it's basically set in the 2000, like late 2010s, early 2020s. So an era where digital and like digital media, technology, social media just like dominate our entire lifestyles. So obviously there's a lot of problems with that, like cyberbullying and just basically seeing the world through the lens of the internet, something a lot of people in my generation suffer from. And we encounter a lot of problems that like previous generations didn't explore. So I think the series does a great job of reflecting that, and basically like making people understand that my generation is more like they're facing problems that not many people used to face in the past. This is shown in Kat's story, for example, and sometimes with Maddie and Cassie, which I'll talk about a little bit in a moment, but I really enjoy this aspect of the series. So going on to Cassie and Maddie, I think their whole dynamic, especially in season 2, was really great done. It made for just like drama, like high school drama, but it's done in such a way. Like I usually am not a fan of teenager like TV shows or, topics that deal with high school. I just think most of them are abominable, like for example the kissing booth or like those kind of movies and shows. I don't know, kind of Riverdale. I don't even know what people these days are watching, but I just don't like them. But I think Euphoria did a really good job at having like this high school setting and create really good drama that doesn't like make people cringe. I think that's an important aspect to consider here, and it was just done in a great way. So Cassie and Maddie, like their whole drama, their whole like romantic triangle with Nate's, just it was done in a really good, great way. Made for some good entertainment, some good drama, and in the end, I really liked it. It was made for some like lighter moments compared to the heavy stuff. For example, the Jewel, I mean, with Rue, like her whole drug problems can become heavy. So like seeing these kind of like comparing these problems kind of made it for a better experience. So I think season 2 also improved in a lot of things from season 1, mostly because some of these stories were already told, like build up in season 1. So there was like a lot of payoff moments, like a lot of like situations that really made these characters learn more about themselves and basically reflect on their past mistakes from season 1. And that's something I really enjoyed. I really enjoy like the way these stories kind of conclude in a lot of ways, and it really ends in a real very intense way, especially with Fez's story. So overall, Fez is one of my favorite characters because he's like so he's just one of those few characters in the show that is basically like most moral. And it's weird because he's like a drug dealer, but he's also like kind of like the head of reason with a lot of the characters, especially Rue. and the way it ended with him and the police is just, it was really intense, and I can't wait to see like where this leads in season 3, and also like where Cal ends too, because he had a really bad ending too. But anyways, I really enjoyed Euphoria. I think all these stories are great. If you've seen the show, please let me know what you think, because this is like one of those rare shows that really is entertaining. Every single episode has something to like, and not one drags. Like every single moment is just building on previous stuff, like making more drama. Like even the smaller things, like the smaller stories, are very entertaining and also reflect a lot of things about the human experience. So, anyways, those are pretty much most of my thoughts, condensed thoughts on Euphoria, because I have a lot to think about. Like I think every episode is like worthy of an analysis, but it would take a long time. So those are basically all my condensed thoughts on the series. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 92 for both seasons. The movies are very different. They're more like artistic movies, with conversations between the two main characters, like Rue and Jules. I mean, Rue with another character, and Jules with another character, but they're really good. They're kind of different, but I also like them. But yeah, the show overall, I'm just gonna give it a 92 out of 100. So yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on the series. Yeah, once again, let me know what you think about it. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, just let me know, and I'd love to discuss it in the comment section. So yeah, that's all everything for so yeah, that'll be everything for today. Have a nice day, everybody, and I'll see you later.